Hi there, thanks for joining me today on Cindy Certified Recipes. You know, when those leaves and those temps start to drop, we all start thinking comfort food. I know I do. And it's one of my biggest playlists, so you gotta check that out. And so today's comfort food is gonna be apple fritters. And we're gonna get those started by making the glaze. I like to make the glaze first so I can just wrap it up and set it aside. So we're gonna get started on that with a small bowl and 1¼ cup of powdered sugar, a little powdered sugar cloud, and just a little bit of salt. Oops, there goes the salt. That was funny. 1¼ teaspoon of vanilla paste. And we're gonna stir that just a little bit. I wanna get that salt moved around. That's good. And then I have some buttermilk here. And we're gonna use 1/4 cup of buttermilk. It definitely gives it that little extra something to use the buttermilk versus regular milk. And you're just gonna whisk that up until it's lump-free. And by the way, anytime you're doing sweets of any kind, it's always good to add a little pinch of salt. It just brings out all those flavors. It's not that you're gonna eat it and go, oh my gosh, that's salty. Just a little trick there. That's looking good. I can tilt that a little bit. All right, I'm gonna be just putting some plastic wrap over this. I'm gonna set that aside. But I wanted to tell you, my husband is not a huge glaze fan on his fritters. And so one of the things that I also like to have available, and I'll do some glazed and some other ways, is cinnamon sugar. And so this is my little plate of cinnamon sugar. I'll be rolling some in that. That's an idea too for you guys. Or just get them a little dusting of powdered sugar. And there's other ways and other flavors you can add, but those are our 3 favorite that I'm going to be showing you today. And I'm going to be setting this aside and moving on to our batter. When I make the apple fritters, I like to do it wet and dry ingredients separately and then add them together. And so now we're going to do our dry ingredients. And all these amounts are going to be in the description below. And so I'm going to start out with all-purpose flour, sugar, and we're going to have baking powder, a little bit of baking soda. It's being stubborn. There we go. That whisk was way too big to get in there. And now we're going to add cinnamon, nutmeg, and a little bit of salt. And what we're going to do is just whisk those up. I mentioned this in a past video where it's always a good idea to whisk your dry ingredients before you add the wet stuff. It just seems to turn out better. You think, why do that? Because it's all going to get mixed up. I get it, but I'm telling you, there's something about it that makes it turn out better. So do that extra step. All whisked. So now we're going to set that aside, and then we're going to bring over the wet ingredients and get those all combined. I have all my wet ingredients here that we're going to be whisking up before we put them here in the dry ingredients. I'm going to start off with more buttermilk. And here we have a couple eggs that are already beaten. And here's some more vanilla paste. Love that stuff. And a couple tablespoons of melted European butter. Just has more flavor. little higher fat content. Give that a little whisk. Looking nice. Get this stuff out of your way. We're going to pour this now into our dry ingredients. In this part, you're going to use a spoon. It's a little easier than a whisk. You're going to get all that stuff stuck in the whisk, and we all know, excuse me, that's a pain. So you're going to just mix this till it's incorporated. You're not going to be doing any big mixing, and also best done by hand. You're trying to avoid too much gluten in the flour. That's it for that. Put my spoon over there. That was a mistake. See what I'm talking about, that whisk? Okay, so this is going to rest a while we cut up these apples. And why I save that to last is so they are nice and fresh and they won't turn brown, even though they turn a little brown when you cook them. But they taste better to me, in my opinion, to cut up these guys last and then just fold them in. So we're going to get on to cutting up our apples. All right, we're back with our apples, and I have 5 apples, and I like a lot of apples in my fritters. After all, it's apple fritters, not essence of apples in your fritters. And again, all the fruit I've been getting this fall has been on the small side, but so I might add 5, but let's start chopping. And we'll go from there. These are Golden Delicious. They're one of my favorite baking apples, and I fear that they are going obsolete because I have a harder and harder time finding them in store. You can use Granny Smith. I just think they're a little tart because I don't add any sugar to these because they have their own natural sweetness. And look at that, one peel, you guys. All right, we got to get around that core. And I like to make these chunks fairly small, dice, depending on the apples. Sometimes like this is a kind of a wide piece, and I'll chop that in half to dice it. So I'll leave it in layers like that. And then just chop them so you can see in my hand, if I can keep in my hand, the size of the chunks like that. That's what we're going for. And so like little pieces like that, they're in between, just chunk them out. You get a few bigger, a few smaller, doesn't matter. They're all delicious. We're just going to keep chopping on these apples. Let's see if I can get one peel again. My mom used to do this when I was a kid, and me and my sisters would fight over the peels. Look at that. One peel. Here's our apples, all nice and chopped up. I ended up using 5 because they were just kind of small. And I mean, has anyone ever said, there's too many apples in my apple fritter? Maybe there's some of you out there, I don't know. But I'm just gonna put a little bit of lemon juice, not a lot. I don't want it drowning. And I'm gonna use my hands. It just gives it a little bright flavor when they're in the fritters. And you know what? I used to cook my apples. And then I I didn't like it. It was like they disappeared into the fritter. And I think they taste, especially this brand of apples, the Golden Delicious, they taste so much better uncooked, and then they cook when you fry them. So these are all ready to go into our batter, and we're gonna fold that in, and then we'll get ready for the next part. We've got our apples here, and they're all lemoned out, and our batter waiting for them, and so we're gonna start incorporating those in. See how that goes. If any of you have seen my German apple cake video, it should look like that, where you have seemingly a lot of apples in your batter, but then it just turns out fantastic. I'm going to tell you another little apple trick is when you buy your apples, even if you don't buy the Golden Delicious, buy them if you can like a couple days prior to when you want to make your fritters, and then leave them on the counter. Don't put them in the fridge, because they ripen just a tad more, and they give off more of that really nice apple flavor. So that looks good. Like I said, I don't want to over mix this and angry up that gluten. So this is now going to rest in the fridge at least 30 minutes. That allows everything to come together, and the baking soda and powder to do their thing. And then we're going to be setting up the way I like to make them on those little parchment papers we cut earlier, and spreading those out, and then get to frying them. Our batter's all rested. It looks so beautiful. You can actually tell that it puffed a little bit with that baking powder, baking soda in there. And so we're going to start with our baking sheet here. And earlier I cut these little pieces of parchment, and I got a little video on when I did that and showing you how I did that. We're going to get our parchment sheet ready here, make these pieces like this for our pan so we can put our batter on there. And all I did was I pulled out a piece of parchment, and this is approximately 16 inches wide, by 12, it's actually 13 inches wide. It's an approximate, it doesn't have to be exact. So all you engineers out there, it's approximate. So we're just gonna cut this in thirds. And that too is approximate. Like that. And then we're just going to cut it in half. And you're going to end up with 6 sheets of parchment that we're going to be putting our batter on. And I actually like to make 12 of these. And it's really simple, and this makes a big difference in frying them up. To me, it makes them more uniform and easier to fry, and with a better outcome. And so we're going to get started by putting our batter on each one of these pieces of parchment. So there's 1 spoonful, and then you're just going to flatten it out, because when they go in that oil, they're going to puff up. So flatten them out will give them, first of all, room to puff, and second of all, will make them cook evenly. And then you just set that off to the side like that. And we're going to go through and fill up all these pieces of parchment, at least as much as I have batter for. Pan number 1. Pan number 2. And you can make these smaller. I've made them the size of the pan just to see if I could do it. It was a little difficult to turn, but it turned out pretty cool. Last one. All right. Those are all set out. That's going to be our fritters, and I'm going to get my oil going while these rest again and waiting for the oil to heat up. And then we're going to start frying these, and you're going to see how these little parchments work. Our oil is about 350, 360. I keep this little candy thermometer hooked onto the side so I can monitor its temperature. And this is where you want to be patient. I only cook one of these at a time in here, and there's a temptation to want to put a whole bunch, but don't do it. Just do one at a time. Focus on one at a time. And so we're just going to pick up the whole piece of parchment here and drop it down into that oil. And once it comes back up, as it's starting to right there, I'm going to grab the corner with my tongs and just shake it. Swirl it around in there. I'll pull these corners down because eventually it will pull free just like that from the fritter. And then I just set those in a pile over here. And now your fritter is free floating and cooking away. And when it gets nice and golden on one side, I'll flip it. And that's how you make perfect fritters. I mean, how easy is that than trying to doll up your dough? And then you get loose pieces of dough that float around in there and make a mess. I'm telling you, this is the way to go. You can see those edges starting to turn brown in there. Give it a flip. If you really want to test these to make sure they're cooked in the middle, you can use a little Insta-read thermometer like this and poke it down in the middle once you take it out. And that temperature should be 170, 175 to make sure that it is cooked through and through. And also cooking them one at a time like this doesn't cool down your oil super fast, and so you can move on to the next one once this comes out without worrying about your oil being too cool. Look at that. Wow. Spectacular. And when you fry just about anything, you'll notice it's pretty much done when all these bubbles start getting less and less. And that's where we are right there. He's looking spectacular. So out that's going to come. Give it a little drip off there. Set it on your cooling rack with your paper towels. Check your temp. We are still slightly above 350 and we're ready to go, and we're just going to keep frying up our fritters. All right, last one's coming out. Turn off the heat, and then we're going to start coating these, a few with some glaze and a few with some cinnamon sugar. All right, you guys, look at these golden beauties. I'm telling you, we can hardly wait to eat them. But now is the extra fun part where we dredge them or paint lightly with the glaze. I know some of you out there do the double glaze thing, but we're just gonna paint a little bit of glaze on there. And so I'm gonna give that a stir just to break up that top. I already took the plastic wrap off. What I'm just going to do is drizzle some on there. And then you just paint the rest on, get it in those nooks and crannies. And that's all we like to put on. That might even be a lot for my husband. So I'm going to do a few glazed. Since I dribbled on that one, I'm going to put it on there. I love to paint, by the way, so this is very soothing for me, painting, even if it's glaze. All right, did a couple of those. And I'm going to show you my little cinnamon sugar. Just put them down, settle them down in there, give it a little toss. Shake off what you don't want. And back on the little rack. Simple as that. So I'm going to do a couple more in the cinnamon sugar. Bed it down. These are just kind of warm. They're not hot, but warm enough for everything to stick. They're both equally messy, so you know what? Messy is fun. So now I did 2 of those. I'm going to do a little more glaze. And then when we're done, we're going to eat them and let you see what they all look like together. All right, I'm going to let that glaze dry on there, and then we're going to do the taste test. Just the comfort food the season ordered. I mean, you guys, if you could only be here, I would surely pass them out. They are just beautiful, delicious. You'll want to make triple this. And I'm sitting here, I can't decide, should I eat a glazed one? Should I eat a cinnamon sugar one? I wish you could guys vote for me right now. Let's see, I have some extras over here, so I don't ruin my pretty little plate here. Let's go for a glazed one. Yummy, yummy. Crunchy on the outside. Beautiful, soft apples and dough, if you want to call it dough, on the inside. Look at these apples. Can you hear the crunch on my microphone? I gotta eat it. I need like angels over my head singing or something. You guys, beyond delicious. I hope you get a chance to try it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you give me a thumbs up, hit that bell, and then you'll get first dibs on all my upcoming videos. And definitely subscribe if you haven't already. I'd sure appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Cindy Certified Recipes. As always, if it's time tested, top-notch ingredients, and the talk of the table, it's Cindy Certified.